ever seen.
Timothy has been making waves in the news lately with his infatuation and young love with Fiona.
Oh, he's adorable. We can see him now.
I think that Tony would make a great mate for Fiona. I mean, they have already connected on social media when they celebrated her first birthday together.
They're way more than just cute little hippos.
The fun of Fiona, right, is that she's a hippo and a super happy, healthy hippo, but she's also like our Princess Fiona that we all like to, you know, pretend that she's a little more human than she is hippo sometimes.
He's turning into Hippo's most eligible bachelor.
We like to look at all the youngsters out there and imagine them in their future.
So we're very excited at the idea of him and Fiona being a match.
It's really fun to pretend and think about all the cute little matches out there with the handsome little hippo boys. But more than likely, we won't know what that will look like for a while longer.
The future of their pairing is dependent upon the Species Survival Plan, or SSP.
And the SSPs can be categorized as 3 different colors, red, yellow, or green. Green is where we all want to be at. Green is a sustainable population. That means that it's genetically sustainable for over 100 years. The majority of SSP programs are yellow SSPs, which is what Hippo is. And a yellow SSP is over 50 individuals located in more than 3 zoos that have the ability to achieve 90% gene diversity in 100 years, but there is something right now challenging that, as well as unknowns about the population. So the Hippo SSP, the entire population of hippos in North America, we only know the origins of about 60% of them. So that can be problematic when you're trying to make sure you have a diverse population, because you don't know what almost half of them, where they come from and how related they are and what their genes are. And then the third is a red SSP, which is less than 50 animals, still has to be in more than 3 zoos, and unless they have an increase in population from outside sources, will not be able to become a yellow and then a green.
All of these plans actually implement very detailed population stud books and make recommendations on breeding plans and transfers. So we will actually receive those recommendations, and then zoos can communicate amongst ourselves and decide what the next step would be in moving an animal.
And with that, we can ensure there'll be a healthy, genetically diverse, and sustainable river hippo population here in North America.
Hippos cannot reproduce until they are about 6 or 7 years old. So in zoos, we look at our older animals that are still reproductive, and if they are genetically valuable, we want to make sure that they're represented as much as possible before they're no longer with us. So that's the perfect example of Bibi and Henry. Henry was 36 years old. Bibi was only 17 at the time. And so we matched the 2 of them because Henry was so important to get him represented genetically. And now with just Bibi and Fiona here, Bibi is 18 and she is actually pretty genetically valuable to the population. So even though Fiona is also important because of her special dad, she's got years and years and years and years, decades, to be around to breed. And Bibi has less time, so she would more than likely be the priority. We could maybe forecast 10 years into the future, and then who knows, because sometimes we'll pair them with other animals of their same age. Or sometimes she might end up with like an old sugar daddy, like her dad and mom. But she probably won't have an actual recommendation till she's, I would say, at least like 7 or 8 years old. That we will do everything to support the requests of the SSP program that we support here at the zoo. However, when it comes to Fiona, if there is a way for us to meet the needs of the population and keep Fiona here, we will do everything in our power to make sure that happens.
We've had so much fun sharing the story of Timothy's love for Fiona, but what's really important to us is raising awareness, not just locally, but globally, about hippo conservation and how we should save the species right now and not just focus in the future for their long-term sustainability.
Our goals in zoos are to be to help the conservation efforts in the wild and to help the animals that we keep here as ambassadors in the zoos.
We want to make sure that we participate every single day in conservation efforts and making sure that we are doing our part to secure a future for wildlife.
I think in the era of social media, there's so many more opinions out there and everybody's so much more engaged and involved, which is great in most ways for what we want here. We want to inspire people to work towards conserving wildlife and doing whatever they can to help the animals on this planet. And so if people want to be invested in matchmaking with hippos, they can totally become obsessed with that. In the end, we have the programs we use, just like in theory, I guess the dating apps use algorithms and numbers to match people up. But we'll just have to see, who knows? Maybe we'll one day have an SSP app, and that's how we'll decide who goes where.